Hey everybody, it's Mr. Landingwin. Today we're going to be looking at scarcity and the factors of production. Now, to start this video off, what I'd like to do is to provide for you an agenda. Today's lesson is going to start off with an introduction to scarcity in economics, and we'll be doing that via an activator. We'll move on then to a PowerPoint where you guys will have an opportunity to be provided a lesson on scarcity and the factors of production. Now, throughout that lesson, you guys will have an opportunity to provide feedback and interact with the material. On top of the lesson, we'll also have an opportunity to take a quick assessment to determine if you have really captured the learning target for today's lesson. In addition, we're going to do a literacy component as you read through the book and provide a short answer response to various prompts. Finally, we'll have an opportunity today to interact with me through a live session through Google Meets, and I will provide feedback on the material that we discussed. Okay, so let's move on to what it is you'll need today in order to accomplish the lesson and the things that are necessary to accomplish the lesson. So today's tools to complete the lesson are the following. Number one, you need some note-taking tool component. Now, I have provided for you a Google Doc for the Basic Economic Concepts packet. You can print that and you can follow along, or if you're more comfortable, you can do some alternative note-taking tool. Either way, you need to have something where you can jot down the material and keep up with what it is we're talking about. Secondly, you'll need access to the Google Slides, where I've provided an interactive tool for scarcity and the factors of production lesson. In addition, you'll need access to the Google Forms where you can complete the assessment on scarcity and the factors of production. And finally, you'll need access to the Google Forms for the short answer literacy component of today's lesson. Okay, let's get into today's lesson. Okay, let's move on now to our learning target and our success criteria. Number one, what is it we're trying to accomplish today? So what we're trying to accomplish today is that I know how scarcity is a basic condition that exists when we have unlimited wants but limited productive resources to satisfy those wants. And to prove that we know that, we are going to provide various examples of how scarcity impacts our lives, as well as some of the examples of the limited productive resources. Today's lesson is going to begin with a flashback to 1996. Now, in 1996, I was a young Coach L, probably 20 years old, and working in retail. And this year, there was a product that was immensely popular. Well, I should say at first it wasn't immensely popular. It actually sat on the shelves and kind of was one of those products that was just a normal sell. But something happened in 1996, right around the holiday season. This product was featured on Good Morning America. And once it was featured on Good Morning America, it started to sell in droves. People went nuts for it. And what was this product? You know, what happened? What was the big deal over it? Well, the product was Tickle Me Elmo. And Tickle Me Elmo in 1996 was the toy to have for the holiday season. Now, the problem was that Tyco, the manufacturer of the product, did not produce enough of this item. And so what happened was they produced 400,000 units of this item, but there were over 1 million in demand. And this is a fundamental problem right from the get-go. So what happened was Elmo started to be sold on secondary markets. And so back then we didn't have eBay, or at least it was in its infancy maybe. And so people had to search for this product through the classifieds or some other method of selling the product or obtaining the product. And so what happened was you could see that Elmo started to be sold on secondary markets. And so the price of the product was driven way up because of consumer demand. And in fact, in some cases, it was sold as much as $2,500. So this toy that originally retailed for $39.95 became, this huge product that everybody wanted and blew up in its popularity. So how do I know about this product, and where did my firsthand information come from on Tickle Me Elmo? Well, at that time in my life, I was working at a store called Babies R Us. And Babies R Us was a retailer for baby products, which actually was a part of Toys R Us, a subsidiary company for Toys R Us. And it is now no longer around because most people know that in 2020, the Toys R Us isn't, and it doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, so I worked at Babies R Us for several years and had a firsthand knowledge of how this Elmo thing went down. Anyhow, what does Elmo teach us about economics? Well, first of all, there was a real problem in the Elmo scenario. Couldn't get the product to the market in time to take advantage of consumer demand. And so there was a scarcity of time and a limited amount of time to get that product to the market. It also showed that when you have a high demand for a product, yet a limited supply, there is a big increase in the value of the product. And so the price was driven way up. So not only does it show us about scarcity, just the lack of time, but also how supply and demand play into the picture. Let's go ahead and define scarcity. Scarcity is the fundamental problem facing all people where we have unlimited wants, yet limited resources to satisfy those wants. I mean, the basic problem is we all want more than we can have, right? But we have limited productive resources to provide those products. So we have to make a decision on how to allocate resources, like who's gonna get the resources. And so different countries do it different ways. The United States, we tend to favor markets, and in most cases, we let the market decide who gets the product, and most of the time that's who has the money. But we also have a system where government can provide resources, and again, different countries do it in different ways. Okay, so what makes something scarce? Something is scarce if it is both limited and desirable. Limited and desirable. And the truth is, scarcity applies to everyone, right? Like, even if you have all the money in the world, there are going to be things that are limited to you. So in this slide here, we have a couple pictures we can look at to identify scarcity. So if you think of something like a natural resource such as oil, theoretically oil is limited in its resource, right? So it's like it's a finite resource. Now we have an abundance of it now, but at some point in history, in the future, we may not. And so there is a value to oil because it is limited and it is highly desirable, highly sought after. I also have a picture of myself here in Chicago in the wintertime. Now, I took this picture, actually my wife took this picture, and I said, I'm gonna use this in class because what it represents is the wintertime and the conditions. And so it's very cold, and as you can see, there's a lack of warmth, and there's absolutely nothing we can do to solve the problem. Now, the only way you can solve the problem of being cold is to get inside, right? There is no way to put a dome around Chicago and change the condition of the climate. So again, scarcity is when something is both limited and desirable. Okay, now I wanted to give you an example of how I have been impacted by this concept of scarcity. At this time, we are back in school and I am back at work. And so I no longer have the opportunity to spend the type of time with my children and my wife that I did when it was summertime. And so one of the things that I have to give up because I'm working is the time with my family. And so yes, what's scarce for me right now is time with my family. I mean, there's no way to solve that problem. I have to come to work, I have to earn a living, but I would like to be with my family, but I cannot. Okay, so time with my family has become scarce for me at this juncture. Again, I have a limited amount of time. I've made a decision to come to work at this point in my life to, again, earn a living, but I'm giving up that time with my family. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause the video and access your Google Slides, Scarcity and the Factors of Production, Student Feedback, and I want you to think of 3 things that have become scarce in your life. In other words, what has become scarce? Now, I gave you an example of me and not being able to spend the time with my family that I would like to. But what I want you to do is think about some things that have become scarce in your life, and then what is the cause of that scarcity? So again, pause the video right now, answer those questions, and then we'll come back and pick it up after that. Okay, let's move on to the factors of production. Now, again, we've got this problem of scarcity, but why do we have this problem of scarcity? We have this problem of scarcity because we have limited resources. What are those resources? Well, those resources are the factors of production or the productive resources. And so there are factors of production that we need to produce anything that we enjoy as a want or a need. Okay, so the factors of production, what are they? They are the resources we utilize to produce more stuff. Now, there are 4 factors of production. There is land, that's natural resources. There's labor, that's workers. There's capital resources, that's typically referred to in the context of physical capital, that's machines and technology, robots, etc. There's other forms of capital too, but we'll keep it at that for now. And then there's entrepreneurial ability. So people have the ability to take those resources and then compile them and produce stuff. Okay, again, let's talk about those different resources. All right, land, number one. Land is a natural resource. Now, these are things that we didn't create, but we're taking advantage of, right? And so they're the gifts of nature. There are things that we take, we manipulate, and that allows us to then produce goods and services. So these are both renewable resources, something like energy in terms of like solar power, or maybe even like wind power. And then there are non-renewable resources like oil. Okay, so land is a vital component of any country's wealth as it provides a basic ability to produce. The second resource is labor. Now these are the workers, right? So these are the people that take their time, their efforts, and devote that to producing. And so this could be either a worker at Walmart or a construction worker. Nonetheless, this is someone that is putting their effort toward producing a good or a service. The third resource is capital. Now, capital, that is physical capital, is when we have machines that assist us in the production of goods or services. And so these machines are going to either replace previous jobs or enhance the position of current labor. The second type of capital is human capital. Human capital is capital that is important because it allows us to improve our abilities, our skills, our technology, our education. And so as you watch this video, you're improving your human capital. You're learning things that can then provide you with a better and more marketable position in the future, perhaps, or just making better decisions, right? Human capital is when we enhance our own ability to produce. And that's an important thing to do, of course. Now, the third type of capital, which is often used in the media when they talk about the economy, is financial capital. And financial capital is money, right? So money plays a very important role in a modern economy, and certainly is used by businesses to invest in their own company, their workers. It works as a medium of exchange, so we pay for things that way. But nonetheless, the three types of capital: physical capital, that's the machines, technically; the human capital, that's our knowledge and skills; and then financial capital, which is the cash, the money. All right, the fourth type of factor production are entrepreneurs. Now, entrepreneurs serve a very important role as they are the risk takers in the economy. So they're the ones that are going to take the product to the market and sometimes use their own money to finance their belief in their business. Now, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, but they are very important as they are the business people that provide goods and services in the economy. So again, we have these four factors of production. We have land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. In this slide, you can see that we have a sweater or a sweatshirt. And to produce this sweatshirt, we need all the factors of production, right? We need the land, that would be the cotton or the silk, whatever it would be made out of. We need the combine, that's the machine, the capital that takes that natural resource and cultivates it for use. We need the workers to sew this sweatshirt together. And then finally, we need a business person to sell it to the people in the market. So we need all those factors to bring this thing to the market. Okay, now going back to your scarcity and factors of production student feedback form on Google Slides, we are going to read through a scenario. And what we're going to do is, after we read through the scenario, we're going to fill out the slide, which will show us that we have an idea of what these factors of production are. Okay, so I'm going to read through this with you, and then we're going to answer these questions. All right, so here's our scenario. Listen, you decide you're hungry and you want to order a pizza to satisfy your wants. So the first thing you do is you enter in your cell phone with the company's app, and that app then shows up on the computer monitor at the local business owner's pizzeria. And so this information is queued on the pizza maker's computer and displayed on the monitor in the kitchen. The cook starts working on your pizza, right? He uses his knowledge of mixing dough out of the natural components, the salt, the flour, the eggs, and the milk, and then finishes that process and washes off his hands in the sink. And then the cook prepares your pizza using other ingredients like tomato sauce, cheese, bell peppers, pepperoni and sausage, etc., and puts it in a brick oven, right? And after 20 minutes, the pizza is ready to be delivered, which then the delivery person takes that pizza and hops in the company car and brings it to your door, right? Okay, so there are many factors of production at work in this example. Let's identify them. Okay, so on this slide 4 of the Google Slides student feedback form, go ahead and take a look at these different productive resources from 1 to 11 and determine what the factors of production are. Once you've done that, I want you to provide a rationale. Okay, so what makes them that resource? So for instance, we'll do the first one, the owner, right? Who is the owner? The owner is the entrepreneur, right? What makes them the entrepreneur is the fact that they are the ones that are bringing this pizza to the market by way of their business. Okay, so let's go ahead and pause the video right now and you guys fill out this form, and when you're done, come back and we'll take a look at the form together. Okay, we're back. Hopefully you had an opportunity to answer these questions, but let's go ahead and go through it. All right, so we did the owner already. That was the entrepreneur. The computer would be physical capital because the computer is going to be used over and over again to produce this resource of pizza, the good, and the service, the pizza company. The monitor would also be physical capital for the same reason the computer would. It's going to be used over and over and over again. All right, the cooks are the workers, that's the laborers. So what makes them a laborer is they're the ones doing the work, right? They're the ones putting in the effort to bring this thing to the market. The knowledge of mixing the dough is our human capital. So that is what allows them to know how to do this. It's not an easy task, like not everybody can do it their first time. They've got to learn how to do it, right? So that's the human capital. The salt, flour, eggs, and milk, that's our natural resource, our land. And so that's just common knowledge, hopefully, that salt comes from the earth, flour is manipulated through wheat, eggs and milk from either a dairy product or from chickens, but these are natural resource. All right, sink is going to be a capital resource, physical capital, same as above, used over and over again. Tomato sauce, cheese, and sausage, also going to be natural resource, land. The oven, that's going to be physical capital because we're putting the pizza in there. We're going to continue to use this over and over again to bring this product to the market. The delivery person is a laborer, same thing, putting their effort into the product. And the company car would also be a physical capital product, even though technically with pizza companies, generally the company car is someone's individual car, but for this purpose, it is used to bring the product to the market, okay? Okay, so we've identified the factors of production in this scenario. Now let's take a look at slide 5 in the Google Slides, Scarcity and Factors of Production Student Feedback. And what I'd like you to do is to come up with 3 original examples of land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. And what this is going to do is allow you to think through the learning target for today and to apply your own knowledge of that. So take a second, pause the video, fill out the form, and then we'll talk about it after you're done. Okay, we're back. Hopefully you had an opportunity to fill that out. All right, let's go through it. All right, so land. Land is a natural resource. Now, with this, you could have basically done anything that you could think of with natural resources. So, something like oil or even like gold and silver, minerals, corn, wheat. There's lots of different examples, right? But natural resources are very important to production, of course. And so they're the starting point in most productive resources. Laborers, again, you could have done a lot of different things here. I have cooks, a miner, like a coal miner or steel miner, farmer, whether it be a watermelon farmer or a cotton farmer. Again, very important that people are there to put their physical labor toward producing a good or a service. Then we have physical capital. So capital would be your machines. I put tractor, a factory, an oil rig. These are things that are going to be used to produce goods and services over time. And then finally, some entrepreneurs, Bill Gates, Russell Simmons, Jay-Z, you could use Jeff Bezos, a lot of different entrepreneurs. You could use local mom and pop entrepreneurs, like my wife owns a business, I could have used her. But these are some examples of the factors of production. Okay, so now we're at the point where you're going to take your assessment. So what you're going to do is go ahead and answer the questions from the scarcity and factors of production assessment. And then what we'll do is later on we have our interactive Google Meets. So we can go through some of those questions and see if you guys have any stumbling blocks on them. But go ahead and answer those questions. It'll give you your response or give you your grade after you're done with the response. Once you're done with your assessment, you're going to complete the short answer, scarcity and factors of production, pages 2 through 6. So go ahead and take a minute to do some reading and writing as a literacy component of our lesson. Okay, guys, so what did we accomplish today? Today we had an opportunity to look at scarcity and the factors of production. This is essentially the building block of economics. You know, we have to deal with this problem of scarcity, so we have to make decisions. Those decisions come with costs. We'll talk about that in the next lesson. But anyway, we had an opportunity to interact and provide feedback on some of these issues and what scarcity is, some examples of scarcity in our lives, and then ultimately the factors of production. So what are the factors of production, the productive resources we need to improve our ability to sustain life and enjoy life, right? Our wants and our needs. You had an opportunity to take an assessment and then do a literacy component as well. So hopefully met our learning target today, which again, the learning target really focused on our ability to understand scarcity and the productive resources and provide examples as a success criteria of how we're going to do this. Okay, so that's going to wrap up or conclude today's lesson on scarcity and the factors of production. Hope you guys had an opportunity to really engage in this, and we'll look at our next lesson, which will be on opportunity cost and decision making. Thanks, guys. Mr. Landingwind. Have a great day.